Tonight, we'll talk about the entirely new race for president materializing before our eyes. Joining me tonight at the table, Peter Baker is the chief White House correspondent at the New York Times. Eugene Daniels is a White House correspondent and a co-author of Playbook at Politico. Adam Harris is my colleague and a contributing writer at The Atlantic. And Asma Khalid is a White House correspondent for NPR. So, yeah, a year's worth of news in a week.
It was.
Hey, well, yeah, no, it's true. It's true. You think about all the things that happen. There's too many things. That's why we're going to talk tonight. Peter, maybe you can start us off by just trying to lift up to 30,000 feet. In less than a month, we have reached this point.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
Even on June 28th, the day after the debate, we could not imagine that Kamala Harris is the nominee and running neck and neck in the polls right now.
Yeah.
It's how did we get here?
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? That Oval Office address that the president gave was his fourth of his presidency. It took 3.5 years for him to give the first two. He gave the second pair in 10 days. That's how accelerated this news cycle has been. And this is going to be a period that historians go back and look at for, I think, years and generations, right? Like the period before Nixon resigned or before LBJ decided not to run. Very different circumstances. But the idea that a presidency ends in something other than an election is a pretty rare thing in our lifetime. And we've now seen it happen in just 29, 30 days. And as you say, nobody would have thought a month ago that Kamala Harris would be the nominee, a putative nominee, and that she'd be running even, if not, in fact, ahead of Trump by a point or two.
Right. Eugene, what's the most surprising thing to you in all of this?
I mean, that it happened. I mean, I've been...
All the journalists in Washington are still in a bit of like fatigue and shock, right?
Kind of
so it's a little bit of
like Frankenstein.
There's a little bit PTSD.
Yeah, a lot of it. The thing that was on Sunday, right, when this letter pops off, everyone's kind of thinking maybe he's going to do it later. If it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. We made it to Sunday. It's it's the middle of the day, and when this comes out, I started calling folks. And I think what I was so surprised by was the amount of people who did not know this was coming.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to people on the campaign and people at the White House crying out of shock from what had just happened.
Exactly.
People up and moved to Wilmington, Delaware to work for this man and get him elected. And they had been promised up until that morning by senior advisors of the president, not the ones that were in Rehoboth with him, but the others, and said, go full steam ahead. If a reporter asks you, call them a big dummy. And
you got that call? I got that call.
Same person? And that continued over and over and over again. So I think the shock of it all. And then I was talking to aides of Vice President Harris, and they're racing to the vice presidential residence, the Naval Observatory, because now she has to start making these calls. She made 100 calls in 10 hours to senior officials in the party to basically say, I want your support, and I didn't want the day to go by without you hearing from me.
How much notice did she have, though? She didn't have very much.
He called her that morning, is my understanding. Yeah. He made the decision on Saturday night. Him and his team start to write the letter. In the morning, she's the first call of the people who weren't there, and lets her know, I am dropping. It's on you, kid, and it's off to the races. They talked a few times, is my understanding, and she didn't have a lot of time. And so the aides that came to the Naval Observatory were basically told, like, just come. We can't tell you why. And then they saw the letter, they're like, oh, we get it now.
Yeah. Asma, you're in the White House all the time. How did this materialize so quickly after all of these promises from the Biden team that is never going to happen?
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, the sense that we have is that Biden ultimately came to the conclusion, as he says, that there was not a winnable path for him. I think what's remarkable to me, though, is how quickly the party seems to have coalesced behind Kamala Harris. I spent a lot of time over the last 3.5 years, Eugene, too, covering the vice president. I will argue there's not a lot of journalists in Washington who've really spent that much time paying attention to her. There was a sense that the first year of her vice presidency was really rocky. And folks sort of thought she didn't have what it took to be president. I would argue that over the last year, at a lot of her public events, she was bringing out pretty sizable crowds, particularly on reproductive rights issues. But still, there was talk in the party that maybe she wasn't the right person. Maybe she wasn't going to be able to beat Donald Trump. You look at it was a 24-hour span in which she basically had accrued. By Sunday, Biden dropped dropped off. Monday night, she had enough, pledged committed delegates to be the likely presidential nominee. That is extreme rapid speed.
So the obvious question is, how much preparation did they do behind the scenes in secret, just in case he dropped out? It seems like this thing
exactly
kind of came off pretty smoothly given the chaos.
I mean, I heard from people who were helping her to organize those delegates that they started rapidly making calls on Sunday. Yeah. I don't know that there was advance notification. I heard that particularly Black women within the Democratic Party quickly coalesced around her. I think there became this inevitability to her very quickly, but I don't get the sense that there was an advance operation.
No, I don't think there was. I mean, they were the folks that are around her and are allies of her. I was calling them, and they were like, "What do you want? I got 2 minutes." Yeah. And so those kinds, because people like Donna Brazile had just started calling delegates for her, kind of creating kind of a whip operation. Yeah. Her team quickly put together a list of these more than 100 Democrats to call. This all happened very fast, and it speaks to kind of a understanding of the gravity of the situation, but also a fear and a concern that there might have been a mini primary, even with President Biden saying that it should have been her.
Now, clearly, Barack Obama wanted a mini primary. I mean, that he just endorsed today, and I wonder. I mean, if any of you are getting the sense, Adam, anyone getting the sense that there's any kind of regret that they didn't have a mini primary, or is this week going so well? Has this week gone so well?
Let's stop it right there, because they pretty much answered what I'm asking, and I'm asking it, how did this come to fruition so quickly? And I guess we got an answer. There's one thing I have a problem with, is that one of President Biden's closest allies and confidants, who's working on, with President Biden on the campaign at the time, talked to Professor Alan Lichtman of the 13 Keys to the White House fame, and Professor Lichtman explained to his viewers some weeks ago that he talked to this close confidant of President Biden's and said, "Hey, you're winning. Things are looking good for you according to the quantitative historical data that the 13 keys identify. President Biden, you're looking to be reelected if things stay static at that time." And so I brought this to you all because it's been some weeks now, obviously, according to the interview, the Washington Report, I think is what it's called, from the Atlantic. According to them, everything was put together all at once. And there was no time to kind of pre-plan. This just happened. Like I've stated, 48 hours before that fateful Sunday afternoon, President Biden was saying, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. And then he gives up. He quits the race. And I've taken some time to take this all in. Just take it all in. Let things kind of fall as they may, and think about how we got from Biden-Harris to Harris-Walz. Because you really have to kind of step away from all the hoopla, all the excitement, all the drama, everything kind of bubbling up due to the vice president being the presumptive Democratic nominee. Now that she's gained the delegates, she is the nominee for the Democrats for the 2024 presidential election. I took some time. That's what I do. I take time and let the noise settle down and look at the broader picture, because for a lot of us, we don't take the time to think, to look at the evidence as it presents itself and think, maybe there's something else going on here. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but however, for 35 odd years in this business of politics, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm sure many of you have not seen anything like this. And yes, it's suspect. Now, according to the folks at the Atlantic Roundtable there, it was a bunch of folks. Once the word dropped, Kamala Harris was on the phone, right after talking to President Biden, and several times during that Sunday, talking with the president. She's calling operatives in the Democratic Party, gathering up her support. More people got on the phone, started talking. The campaign staff is brought in, confidants are brought in, and you have what you have now is the Harris campaign for president, and now the Harris-Walz campaign 2024. It just came together so quickly. And my point here is the ability to pivot during a campaign when things go bad or when they go good. And in this particular situation, you had a combination of things going south with President Biden saying, hey, you know something? I'm not doing this, to Vice President Harris taking up the mantle. And what I'm really looking at, again, I don't have a horse in this race, but what I was really fascinated about this pivot was how the campaign infrastructure came together. Of course, the vice president has, her supporters and confidants that she relies upon every day. Those folks are automatically, that inner circle is going to be there. How effective that inner circle was going to be in gathering up support and supporting the vice president, the pressure was on in those crucial first 48 hours, because the vice president had to show some competency, that she is prepared. And I admit it, this pivot was phenomenal. They did a great job. And we're talking about, for the most part, the Biden-Harris campaign team coalescing over this new strategy, this new objective, working with the vice president, the Democratic Party, the delegates, the influencers, the electeds, the pundits. Yes, the pundits were involved. The media was involved. There's no doubt about this. The media definitely was a part of this pivot. And then as you saw, and this kind of went under the radar, but it was coming. For those of us in the know, for those of us who are, political junkies, we knew that the Obamas, particularly President Barack Obama, was going to have his handprint in this campaign. And lo and behold, many of the top operatives, David Plouffe, who operated and managed the Obama 2008 campaign, are now in place, managing, consulting on the Harris-Walz 2024 campaign. If there's anything that Vice President Harris' opponents and naysayers should be concerned about, is the fact that Team Obama is now in play. Team Obama is now consulting on Team Harris-Walz 2024. That is a phenomenal pivot. Now, talking about, pivot, I want to pivot to something just as important and in a way related to what I just talked about in regards to the ability to pivot. And typically I would talk about this during one of the Countertop Politics shows, but I want to bring your attention to this. And to my friends at Reddit, I saw this on I believe it's the subreddit data. I think that's it. And this was something that I've been waiting to see in a format like this. But however, for those of you who are listening and cannot see this creative on your screens, it's the U.S. presidential election results. And it ranks by percentage of eligible voters between 1976 and 2020. What was the most popular result, the second most popular result, and the least popular result during those presidential elections? So in essence, it's saying, okay, how many by percentage of the eligible voters at that time voted for a particular presidential candidate, or did not vote at all? And what blew my mind in the frustration with us as American citizens, the voting public, is the fact that from 1976 until 2020, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 elections. From 76, inclusive of the 2016 election for president, the most popular result, presidential election result, was did not vote. Between 38% back in 2008, that's when Obama ran and won, to upwards of 47% during the 80s. 47%, 48% during the second Clinton victory. I'm sorry, and this is emotional for me because it breaks my heart. 38% to 47%. 48% of Americans who are eligible to vote did not vote in those elections. 11 elections. The outlier is 2020, where the majority, by 1%, of eligible voters voted for Joe Biden by 34%. 33% did not vote, and 31% voted for Donald J. Trump. Let's do those numbers again. It's almost even. 34% voted for Joe Biden, 33% did not vote at all, and 31% of eligible voters in 2020 voted for Donald J. Trump. America, we have to do better. I'm not asking you to vote. No, I'm not. No. No, I'm not asking you to vote. What I'm asking you is to become civically engaged. I'm asking you to become involved in your civic responsibilities. And that doesn't necessarily mean voting. That's a number of things. First of all, it's about educating yourself. It's about understanding the importance of our representative democracy and how our decisions to vote for this individual or that individual or no one at all, not participate in the process at all makes a difference. It makes a difference from your soil and water candidate to the judges that you elect, to the county commissioner, your alderman, your mayor, your state representative, your comptroller, your attorney general, your governor, your state senator, your representative in Congress, your senator in DC, and of course, your president. It's more than that. We're talking about charter amendments. We're talking about constitutional amendments to your state constitution, ballot initiatives. Civic engagement is more than just voting. And of course, I encourage you to vote. But what I encourage you more is to educate yourselves. Be a better citizen. Don't we all want to be better? Better at what we do? Better people? A better version of ourselves? Why not be a better civic, a better person involved, engaged in the civic process? That's really all I'm saying. We are living in some fascinating times. I still predict, based on my conversations with those in the political space, my conversations with my peers who are politicos, who follow this stuff just as I do, the books that I read, Dr. Perron, Professor Lichtman, and just being curious. Just opening a book, listening to a documentary on a specific podcast, or just having conversations with you, honestly. And that's what really matters to me the most. And I really appreciate you all, being here with me and listening to what I have to say. It means a lot to me. And, this is great. The last 2 months have been crazy busy. However, it's been a lot of fun. And I've learned a lot about politics. If you're not learning every day, if you're not growing as an individual, personally or professionally, you're just dead. I mean, really, in essence, you're just dead. So, again, please like, share, and comment. Like and comment, especially the comments. I really love the comments. I love to hear what you have to say. Please bring your facts, not your feelings, because I really don't care how you feel about anything. I just want to know that you come with some facts backing up your point of view, because we all have points of view. But the best thing is having the facts, the data, the statistics, I can't even speak right now, I'm so excited. The statistics to support our argument, our position, our opinions, and just, our belief system. So again, thank you again. This is the David Washington Show, and we are